Good evening, Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to another edition of OLM Live Discussion. I'm Angela Green, Executive Director of On Location Memphis. Now, of course, all of us were devastated by the untimely passing of Chadwick Boseman last year. Those of us who were fans of his as an actor, but especially those who were fans of Black Panther and T'Challa, the two characters that he worked so tirelessly to bring to the MCU. Now, the thought of recasting T'Challa and Black Panther at that time, a couple of weeks after his death, it was not really thought of. Actually, it kind of felt disrespectful. But now that we're about 7 months past his passing, there's a new movement that is on the rise, and that movement is Recast T'Challa. Now, I guess the question is, what is the best way to honor Chadwick Boseman and the work that he did for the MCU and for the character of Black Panther and T'Challa? Is it the best way to not recast him? Or would it be more fitting to honor him by allowing T'Challa to continue on and live in the MCU just as he did in the comic books? So that's what the question is tonight. Should we or should we not recast T'Challa, and why? Hit the like button, share the stream, let the people know that we're having that discussion tonight, and that discussion is about to start right now. So I'm going to bring to the virtual stage, of course, the individuals who are with me pretty much every time we do these OLM live discussions. First, I want to introduce to you Adrian Williams, who is our filmmaker and OLM board member. Welcome, Adrian, to another edition.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing all right. And so also, no stranger to the OLM live discussion is Ray J. Rayburn, who is our resident comic book enthusiast. He keeps us on track as far as what we're talking about. Make sure the history is all on point. Hey, how you doing, Ray? Thank you. Good. So we decided, the professor of the comic book world. And so now we have two new people who are joining us for this live stream. The first is we decided to bring another woman in who has a little bit more knowledge about what's going on in this comic book world. I've been holding it down as best I could, but I'm glad to bring Miss Penny Curtis, who's an artist as well as a comic book enthusiast to the stage with us. Hi, Penny. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Excellent.
Penny.
And last but not least, we're bringing Mr. Marcus Seabury. This is our actual movie critic, comic book movie critic coming to the stage. Hi, Marcus. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me. I guess my wife is glad whenever I get to talk comics with somebody else, because that means I won't be talking to her. But I know she like, I don't read like that.
Right.
I'm finna go over here and watch some HGTV. Leave me alone now.
Right. So let's go ahead and get into this. The first thing, when Chadwick passed, and I love Black Panther like everyone else. And OLM, we actually hosted a pre-screening of Black Panther over in Cordova at one of the Malcolm theaters. And that place was packed. We had at least 300 plus people. Standing room only. And that movie has such a profound impact on everyone who were in attendance. They dressed up in their African garbs, everything. So I was just wondering, when you all heard the news that Chadwick had passed away, what was your first reaction? I'll go around the virtual screen here. I'll start with Adrian. Let me know, what were your thoughts that just came into your mind when you heard that?
I think I kind of reacted. It surprised me, my reaction, because, we go through every day of hearing about celebrity individuals that, pass and things like that. But this is one of those things where, gone too soon, too young, and it just hit me. It hit me differently. It hit me differently. I think I was a little bit numb by the news. Yeah.
Excellent. What about you, Ray?
It hit me
pretty hard, but I was shocked. You know, the man was very healthy. He was low key on anything that was related to his health. He still did his work on screen and off screen. Especially, I read an article about him visiting the cancer ward, you know, doing certain things and still fulfilling his duty as a person, you know, as a hero, you know, outside of the film industry. And it just really just allowed myself to say, hey, you know, we have to really take we can't take things for granted. But it really hurt me to a point where it was like almost like a person that I knew. And for his attachment of me understanding his work not only with Black Panther, it was just like, man, he had a lot more. He hasn't even hit the ceiling on what happened. So in his career, so it really took an impact on me. But it also, I guess, just to say this real quick, my son, he's going into my son Micah. He's going into the the acting field as well. Along with my oldest son Isaiah, but he actually decided to go into acting because of Chadwick Boseman's passing, and he indicated that he motivated him to be like him, you know, and that hit me even harder because, you know, there are people that don't understand that there are people that they're watching you and you don't know they're watching you. You can affect a person directly or indirectly. But you know, that was the thing that really hurt me, but at the same time inspired my son to become an actor, go to school. That's what he wanted to major in. So tough hit, but at the same time, there are certain things that, you know, of good things that did manifest from this. But
right,
it hit me hard though. I ain't gonna lie.
Right. What about you, Marcus?
Well, all right. My Chadwick Boseman fandom and respect goes back to a little show on ABC Family called Lincoln Heights about a Black cop who moved his family back to his neighborhood, back to the neighborhood he grew up in. And then he finds out that he had a son from a relationship a long time ago, and he was played by Chadwick Boseman. And I was like, I don't know this dude's name, but this kid is good. And then the next thing you know, he got Jackie Robinson. I was like, oh, dude from Lincoln Heights is Jackie Robinson, because he was still dude from Lincoln Heights to me. But then about the point he got James Brown, it was, oh, Chadwick Boseman is now James Brown. I'm like, well, he just doing the whole circuit. I'm like, is he gonna do Frederick Douglass next? I don't know, but like, now what I started seeing is I would see videos of him looking a little emaciated. Then I read a story about him passing out, and so like I do a podcast with the guy who was at Howard with Chadwick Boseman back in the day, my good friend, comedian Richard Douglas Jones. And so I called, I text him like, yo, what's up with Chad? Then he called me like, what did you hear? I'm like, they say he passed out recently. I said, but I also heard that he been preparing for a role. So like, I thought him being skinny was maybe him working on a role. And then, I'm assuming Richard talked to him, but Richard never told me what he said. And then fast forward to a few weeks later, I'm watching Lovecraft Country on my DVR, and I get a text like, "Oh, Chadwick passed away," and so I immediately called my friend Richard like, "Yo, man, they said Chad dead, man." Like, and it was just crazy, like that this man was gone, this fantastic, brilliant talent, but also when the revelation came that he'd been battling cancer for that long, I was like, this man was doing career work while battling cancer. Like that's some crazy level of multitasking and compartmentalizing.
Right.
And I mean, maybe that even made it more precious because he was like, yo, there's a good chance I could not be here. So this is my choice to, fulfill and leave my legacy. That was powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, Penny?
I was devastated when I found out about it. The same thing about hearing the rumors and stuff online and everything. The fans saying that they had seen him emaciated and sickly looking. I did. I thought the same thing, that he was, just doing a role, because he was doing the movies, the Spike Lee movie for Netflix. And we knew that that was coming up. So it was like, okay, maybe it's for the role. But the body of work that the man did was amazing, to think. And not only the body of work, but the work ethic that he had. Because when you listen to the people talk about him that worked with him, he put so much effort into everything that he did. He was serious about leaving everything there, just giving everything that he had. And then, I'm not gonna lie, I was elated and excited to find out that he is Christian, and that his faith had a whole lot to do with who he was and how he interacted with people. And I have not really run across an interview or any comments from anybody about him being negative or inappropriate behavior or anything. And I thank God for that. That man was amazing, and just the diversity that he had in the body of work that he did, because he was all over the place.
That's
and
true.
I will say, the last movie that he did, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, amazing. He did an amazing job in that movie.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you think about, and you can't help it, as soon as you hear that, once the shock kind of wears off, just with the society that we live in, everything kind of turns to the business, because everybody knows that Chadwick pretty much was the linchpin in the whole Black Panther franchise. It was pretty much resting on his shoulders. And so, of course, after so many, you started hearing the rumors about, well, what is Disney and Marvel Studios going to do? They pretty much have banked their whole franchise, the Black Panther franchise, on Chadwick Boseman. And now that he's gone, what's going to happen? So, of course, we started hearing all those conversations. And in December of 2020, that's when I guess it was Kevin Feige made the announcement that they were not planning to recast T'Challa. What were your thoughts about that when you heard that bit of news? Anyone can jump in.
I instantly disagree, because as an old comics head, I'm like, so we just gonna leave all this rich material for T'Challa just on the table or on the shelf? And I mean, again, no disrespect to Chadwick. Chadwick was amazing, but like, I didn't want to be greedy with the feeling I felt watching Black Panther. I didn't want to be greedy with that feeling of sitting in a theater, seeing a tall, regal Black man just be, badass and, handling business on screen. Like, I was like, I want generations to have that, because it was such a great feeling. And, as like an old school comic kid, it's been so many like Black heroes, and I was like, well, bless their heart. Like Media Man, Blank Man, and even like Hancock. It was like, yeah, Hancock powerful, but he drunk. So it was like, Black Panther like kind of filled a void that many of us had just been wanting for years. So I was just like, hey y'all, let's not just be hasty. Let's just like never recast him. But and then I was hoping like, well, maybe they won't recast in this one.
Right. Yeah. So I know probably immediately, within weeks or maybe a month or two after his passing, the whole thought or anyone mentioning recast T'Challa may have seemed quite taboo, to even to voice it. But I know there were others just like you who were definitely, felt the same way, that, there was too many rich stories out there. And so there was one gentleman on YouTube, and I know many of you know who he is. E-Man with E-Man Movies Reviews, he pretty much stepped up and was willing to put a voice to what was going through the hearts and minds of many MCU Black Panther fans. And he came up with the Recast T'Challa movement. And I really just felt like I could not have this conversation tonight without at least having the man himself come in and talk with us about it. So help me welcome E-Man with E-Man Movie Reviews joining us. Thank you, E-Man, for joining us tonight. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. How's everybody doing today?
Oh, we good, man. Wow.
Hey.
Okay.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
So going around the room, we have Adrian here. Adrian is our filmmaker. He's our board member at On Location Memphis. Ray J, Rayburn, and Penny Curtis, they are our comic book enthusiasts like yourself. And then we have Marcus Seabury, who's a comic book enthusiast, but he's also a movie film critic like yourself. Awesome. And so we were having this, and Ray J was the one that sent us your link originally, the Recast T'Challa petition to us, Adrian and myself, and was like, hey, we need to get on this, we need to sign it and start passing it around. And that's kind of what got it going. But I just wanted to allow you, E-Man, to just tell us and the people who watch us, what is the Recast T'Challa movement? What is it and what is it not?
Sure. And first and foremost, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you all and join you all tonight. It's always a pleasure. I mean, I am a Black Panther fan. I'm a Chadwick Boseman fan. I'm a fan of Black culture in general. So that was first and foremost one of the main reasons why I wanted to start this petition. And I mean, just to kind of give a little background, this never would have happened. I never would have done the petition at all had Marvel not came out and said, because they're very scripted, they're very planned, very meticulous. They know what they're doing. When they made the final decision to say they will not recast T'Challa. I think the problem a lot of people had was that they assumed that they meant only for Black Panther 2. But that's not what they said. That's how it was reported. When you look it up, it reports, oh, they're not going to recast for Black Panther 2. But that's not what they said. They said, we will not recast the character. Full stop, period, done. That part, I was like, wait a minute now.
Right.
I totally understand if y'all want to take some time, you want to delay things. I get that. I'm not even going to sweat that at all. And that is why this petition is not a call for an immediate recast. We ain't got to be like Aunt Viv on Fresh Prince and just throw a new person in the mix. We ain't got to do that. I want to be sensitive to that level of emotion, especially for the cast and stuff. However, to never recast a character, I find that deeply problematic, mainly because we all saw the impact of the first movie, and a lot of that had to do with the character of T'Challa. What I'm sure fellow comic fans of the comic would attest to, in 1966, this character was created to be the embodiment of an anti-stereotype for Black characters at the time. He wasn't the shucking and jiving, sidekick supporting character. He was like one of the very first leading characters in the comics to be independent, not, dependent on anything. His country has never been infiltrated. Like, he was really the standard, especially during the 60s, during the Civil Rights Movement. Right. And the other thing I think people forget, or maybe not even know, is that T'Challa, the character, was the platform for representation for other Black characters. You wouldn't have Luke Cage or Falcon or all these other characters, Black Lightning. You wouldn't have them have this forefront, the ability to step up and be like, wait, I could be more than a sidekick. Wait, I don't have to say stupid, catchphrases. I can actually be seen as a human. That's what Black Panther does, in a sense. I'm sorry, T'Challa. I want to be clear. That's what T'Challa does. T'Challa, in a sense, was kind of like the Jackie Robinson for Black characters in the fictional setting. So the reason why I wanted this to happen was because the other thing is with the representation, it wasn't just those Black male characters, it was the female Black characters too. You wouldn't have Storm elevated to the goddess level if it wasn't for T'Challa. You wouldn't have the Dora Milaje kicking butt and taking names if it wasn't for T'Challa. You wouldn't have Shuri elevated to queen status and taking on the mantle of Black Panther while T'Challa was there and fully supporting her too. That is why T'Challa is so important, you know, and that is why I was like, wait a minute, I get it. The next movie, y'all probably gonna uplift Shuri, and that's fine. I got 3 daughters. I want them to see that, you know. But my thing is like, there's representation that you're losing if you never recast T'Challa, because when you take that away, and my brothers here, I think you guys can attest to this. We know the comic genre is heavily male-dominated space, usually white males too at that.
Right.
But because it's also a male-dominated space, there's nothing stronger in terms of imagery and representation than seeing a strong Black man support and uplift a strong Black woman. It doesn't, yes, it's wonderful to uplift women, you know, when they do it themselves and all, that's great. But there's a duality that happens and a stronger message when you also see another man there also supporting it and uplifting her. And that's why I'm like, that's what y'all are losing when you take T'Challa out the equation. And we cannot afford that. That's the long-term picture. That's why I'm like, when y'all try and get rid of him forever, that's problematic. For now, I get it. And this ain't a question to stop anybody from taking on the mantle. The mantle can go to anybody. In the comics, the mantle went all over the place. It was M'Baku, it was Killmonger, Shuri had it. That does not matter. What matters is T'Challa was always the focal point for 55 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the last point I kind of want to bring up, I'm sorry, I didn't want to grandstand or nothing. I want to, you know, allow everybody else to talk too. But the one thing I really want people to understand, especially from a cinematic perspective, T'Challa, the role, is a huge step forward in progress for Black actors and representation as well. We have to talk about how all the other Black characters, because this is kind of what Marvel's doing, and this is my slight critique against them, that they are inadvertently taking a step back in progress by cutting off the very first leading Black character in the MCU. Falcon ain't no leading character. He's not getting a movie. Don Cheadle's armor, you know, War Machine, he's not getting a movie. T'Challa can. T'Challa is in the position as a character to be as equal as Steve Rogers, Captain America, Tony Stark, you know, Thor, and have blockbuster potential, which we've already seen. And that's why I'm saying, like, you're stifling the opportunity for another Black character to have that opportunity to be a life-changing role. We know these are life-changing. Wasn't nobody checking for Robert Downey Jr. until he was Iron Man. Wasn't nobody checking for Chris Evans until he was Captain America. Chris Pratt, nobody was caring about him until he became Star-Lord. A leading role in the MCU and Marvel is life-changing. Right. So you mean to tell me that you never gonna give another Black character, another Black actor that opportunity? And this is the problem that we have, is that we're kind of goaded into this mindset that it has to be an either or situation, that it has to be like, no T'Challa, but hey, here are all these supporting characters. Maybe they work, maybe they don't. That's not how the comics work. That's not why they lasted for 55 years. They lasted because they elevated everyone at the same time. Right. That's why I'm like, yo, stop this nonsense, because I know some people just don't understand it. But I'm like, stop this nonsense of trying to stop T'Challa, because you don't have to have him be in the forefront, but he's always existed.
I think it's interesting that a studio will come out and say what they said. Yes. You know, I think it's interesting when we know historically what they've done in the past is recast people.
All the time.
we historically know that they've recast. Look at the Hulk. It's you mentioned War Machine and how that basically happened, and this studio has done this in the past.
But what does that say though? when you recast the character, because for some reason, I have no idea why people think this. People think that recasting means disrespect. It's never meant that, ever. I've never heard anyone say, man, because you recasted, a new James Bond, Sean Connery's legacy is done. What? No. Like, it's always been intact. It's been fine. All the Supermen. Ain't nothing hurting Christopher Reeves' memory. If anything, it is accelerated and perpetuated because Henry Cavill is still making Superman relevant today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, brother.
And it's like, I look at comics as like American folklore, right? The same way folklore from other places like the Three Musketeers, Tarzan, or Lone Ranger, there have been like a long line of people to play those characters. And I always envision superheroes as like that, legends and folklore. So, of course, other people can step in and play those roles. Because, I know some old comic book kids that were just like dead set against Gal Gadot because they were like,
right.
Well, Linda Carter's my Wonder Woman. Bro, your Wonder Woman 70. Like, let the young kids have one. And I'm probably exaggerating. She's still fine, whatever age she is. But yo, like your Wonder Woman was like a long, long time ago. Like, so no other generation gets to enjoy that character. That's greedy. That's selfish.
Y'all can probably speak to this better than I can. You guys recall the Bionic Man, $6 million man?
Yes.
Of course.
I don't.
Right.
Why? It's never been recast.
They never done it again.
It's never been, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's cool. Like if you, 40 up, 50 up, whatever. If you remember that, that's cool for you. But most people under 30, they probably don't know what you're talking about. And that's what I don't want to happen here. What I don't want to happen is for them to water this down and be like, hey, it's just a mantle. It can go to anybody. No. It ain't just about having any old black person can be in the suit and that's it. No. Don't water it down like that because y'all don't water it down with anything else. Let the legacy build by keeping the central point, which is T'Challa. Keep it going. He's the anchor. That's all it is. He's just the anchor. He doesn't have to be the only one.
Well, I think is what it is also recognizing there's a difference between Black Panther and T'Challa.
Yeah.
So if you're focusing on, we're going to keep Black Panther in it, we're just not going to recast T'Challa, but we're going to keep Black Panther. Then you're putting the focal point on Black Panther.
Yeah.
But that's not where the heart lies as far as us as a people, Black people, and what they look at. They're looking at the man in the Black Panther suit, which in this case is T'Challa. And that's what people are saying. That is also very important. That character himself is very important, not just Black Panther. So Greg, go ahead. I know you had a point too.
Yeah, I mean, there, at the stages of the MCU, there are certain type of phases that are going to introduce new characters. Now, we're talking about Fantastic Four. We're talking about Dr. Doom. We're talking about Namor. We're talking about the X-Men. And Black Panther hasn't even scratched, T'Challa has not even scratched the surface yet on the potential, because initially Robert Downey Jr., aka Iron Man, was the leader, the franchise holder of the MCU, but he's going on retire, even though I think he might come back. But it was supposed to be T'Challa that was supposed to usher in a new age of technology, education, leadership, for the new phases of the MCU. And to be able to say, okay, we're going to not recast T'Challa is to me is kind of crazy, because you won't see interaction with Dr. Doom and T'Challa,
which is classic.
The classic.
Ooh, great.
Their banter between each other is classic alone.
You're talking two leaders of two people who lead their countries.
Exactly. You won't see the banter and the war between T'Challa and Namor in Atlantis. You will not see T'Challa interact with the Fantastic Four. You will not see T'Challa interact with Storm,
Mm.
with her background as teenagers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Hurt my heart.
You will not see T'Challa join the Illuminati
Mhm.
and betray the Illuminati. You know, there's a lot of stories that can be told about T'Challa. And yeah, we can all have a break, you know, recoup. But at the end of the day, there are a lot. There's 55 years of history. There's a lot of stories to be told, especially ushering in new characters that's coming in. That's going to be groundbreaking. A lot of MCU, Disney Plus shows coming on, and at the same time, I think they're coming out with a Wakanda series as well on Disney Plus soon. But it's a lot of stories about Wakanda, a lot of stories about T'Challa and his interaction as a leader. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, nobody don't want to mess with Black Panther, even Dr. Doom. That's the one guy that I know he had. It's put like this: it's classic between the interaction between them two. But that's just my thing. It's a lot more stories to tell about T'Challa, you know, in the MCU coming up with the different phases coming up.
Yeah.
So we got a difference of opinion here. I'm going to put this in. Nick Warren, he's tuning in from Spain right now. He says, in my opinion, I don't think they should recast Black Panther. If they do, they're going to have to do it in a very careful way, or else a lot of people, myself included, are going to be pissed. They are going to have to do a crossing of dimensions, or actually having T'Challa die for it to make sense, or why is he not the same guy? They can't just toss some new guy in a movie and expect everyone to go along with it. So that's Nick's warning. Anybody want to?
I believe he's on a point.
Well,
That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
Go ahead, Penny.
Hey, Penny.
Okay.
No, Penny, go, Penny.
I mean, in respect to Nick, that's not necessarily true because they recast people in roles all the time. You look at Heath Ledger's Joker versus Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and those were two different Jokers, and they held their own, and they were both very well respected, well written, and well played. So you can like put another face in that role and still move, as long as the story is actually worth doing and it lends to a new vision or a new interpretation of that character. There are a lot of different things that you can still do with T'Challa. I mean, there's only one problem that I ever had with Black Panther. And I understand why they did it. And it was the fact that they did not make him or portray him to be as intelligent and as scientifically advanced as he actually was in the comic book.
Let's go.
They hinted at it a little bit when he was in the lab talking to Shuri, but they didn't really go into it because in the Marvel universe, his intellect is on par with Reed Richards.
Yes, it is.
Exactly.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
so and they collaborated on a lot of things. So that was a dimension of him that they didn't go into. So writing a new script, and I'm thinking still leave it after do Black Panther 2 without him, give a reason why he's not there, and then in 3 explain briefly why he wasn't there, and then move forward with a newer, fresher vision of the character. And I have to admit, there's still a lot of Black male actors in Hollywood who can pull something else out of that part. To say that nobody else could play that is to say that we don't have the rising stars that other ethnic groups have.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So
Fantastic.
I want to touch on two things Nick brought up. Okay. Is the first thing is we all feel the same way. You know, it's not just about T'Challa, it's also about Chadwick, you know, and being in that role and things like that. We understand that. But there's been historically so many situations similar to it where an actor passed away and the studio had to replace him and things like that. So I'll say this.
Yep. Dumbledore.
Here's a clear example of that happening.
Spartacus.
And
Yeah.
and things like that. You know, but there's also that side of it where you don't see anybody else in a role, and therefore I give you this. You know, so I get both sides. I get both sides of it, but the thing I believe, and I said this in one of our in one of our shows before. I think Ray J, you might remember this. Is that it's my solution? This is my opinion of actually what could happen. Is this is an excellent opportunity to bring in two characters that I really like. I think that when Killmonger asks to be thrown into the sea, that's an opportunity for a submariner, Namor, to actually get his body, use the heart-shaped herb, and bring him back to life, or whatever. Okay, and then that's when Doctor Doom attacks Wakanda, and so who's going to save Wakanda and save his auntie, Killmonger? Now, people say, well, we don't really want to lose the Killmonger. We don't really want Killmonger to be Black Panther, but historically. And some of you may not, and some people out there may not know this, but a long time ago, there was a show called All My Children. Okay.
Yes.
And there was a young actor who left the show by the name of Chadwick Boseman.
Yep.
In the role of Reggie Porter. And the actor that replaced him was Michael B. Jordan. So history has already been written for this to possibly occur. So I'm all for recasting the role and moving on and things like that. But you know, that's just my opinion.
Can I piggyback off of that real quick too?
Sure.
There was a video. I just posted it on my Instagram. So if you want, you could always check it out at E-Man's Reviews. It was a clip of Roland Martin. He had texted Chadwick Boseman a couple months before he passed. So this was like April 2020. What Chadwick told Roland was that this is how Chadwick wanted to be remembered. He told Roland in the text, I want people to see the roles. I want people to see the characters. I want people to remember Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson, James Brown, T'Challa. He doesn't want people to see Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. He wants you to see T'Challa. That is the job of an actor. The actor gets into roles that he believes, this is consistent with Chadwick's thoughts, that he believes are bigger than himself. So when we sit here and say as fans, I can't see nobody else but Chadwick, no one else can do it but Chadwick, then what you're unintentionally saying is that Chadwick failed. You're saying that Chadwick didn't do a good enough job because he did not want you to remember him. He wanted you to see the role. Now, that does not mean that we should not celebrate the real life superhero that was Chadwick Boseman. Right. My man was bigger and more than T'Challa. He was bigger and more than just the roles he took as well. So that's why I started this petition. I'm like, let's get this false narrative out of here where we can only confine Chadwick to just T'Challa. No. My man was out here going to children's hospitals, visiting cancer patients. He was out here supporting, going back to his alma mater in Howard, going back and helping the students there the same way Denzel Washington and others helped him. He believed in reaching back and helping. So let's celebrate his life as a human being, as a wonderful actor, as a hero, philanthropist, all that. And at the same time, it honors his work to recast T'Challa to keep the role going. Because what some people might not know, he knew he had cancer in 2016, but he signed on for Black Panther 3, which is probably not even a thing for another 5 years from now. That's how much he had foresight and belief in the role. He wanted to see the role all the way there, even when he knew he had a life sentence hanging over his head.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And also, I'm just gonna take the petty route. If you watch the Michael Keaton Batman, but then you turned around and watched the Val Kilmer Batman, and then you turned around and watched the George Clooney Batman, and then you turned around and watched the Christian Bale Batman, or you watched Ben Affleck play him in Justice League. You're tripping. You're tripping. You're being a hypocrite, and I just need you to be better overall.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay. So
one more thing, real quick. Do y'all think do y'all think that Kevin Feige is just being careful at the moment?
Oh, of course, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, everything MCU does is safe and careful.
I
think
okay. Oh,
so.
go ahead.
Lee Harmon. He says, I feel like Kevin F. made the decision about Chadwick because in the heat of his death, it seemed respectful. After fans start to come in and voice their opinion, then they'll see their mistake. After they fired James Gunn for past social media posts, fan outrage caused them to bring Gunn back.
Look, that's why I did the petition. That's why, because I wanted people to know now of the potential of what would happen if they got rid of the character forever and not wait until July 2020. You sitting there and then all of a sudden they kill him off screen. You see some text or some animation and they like, well, T'Challa had cancer and he just died. Like as if Wakanda can't heal that anyway, whatever.
Exactly.
So I'm like, yo, if we show the fact that we care now, it still gives them time because they haven't even started shooting until summer. I want to say July. So they have time to be like, oh, we was never gonna kill him. We was just gonna take a break. I don't care what excuse y'all come up with. I just want y'all to have enough leeway to realize, because unfortunately, a lot of fans that only have been exposed to the movies, they are okay with the recast or with not recasting because they don't know. They don't know the bigger picture. They don't know the history. They don't know the impact. They're just there for the entertainment. And that's why they like, it's okay. It's all right to recast, whatever. Yeah. But just the one other point, and I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. I don't really like to get into that. However, it is a factor because we have to remember this is a business. Right before his passing, it was reported that Chadwick was in negotiations to restructure his contract. He had signed on for 5 movies, 5 appearances, and let's just be honest, he was getting paid chump change, for it. Nobody expected Black Panther to drop $1.3 billion, out of nowhere. So for him, he was in the midst of renegotiating his contract, just like Robert Downey Jr. did, just like all the other people did. Everybody restructured their contract, when they see like, hey, I'm bringing you in way more than you expected. Let's
he had completed his contract. I mean, he had done everything he was supposed to do under that initial contract. It was time to renegotiate.
So one thing is when you get rid of the role from a business sense, that's a lot of money you ain't got to pay now. Because it's easier to pay Letitia or, other actors that don't command as high of a rate. It's easier to pay them just a little bit more and get rid of a high-paying role entirely. Because let's also be honest, they also got rid of Robert Downey Jr. because he was making way too much money.
Yeah, he was popping $50 million. Look, Iron Man 1, he got $500,000 to do Iron Man. And then next thing you know, the problem with recasting with Don Cheadle and
Terrence Howard.
Because originally they did want Don Cheadle, but the studio said they had to have some star power with an Oscar or whatever. So the point was that Robert Downey Jr. ended up making like $50 million. Chris $100,000 for Thor.
So what do you think LaShawn Cook is saying here? She was saying, you forgot one thing, Hollywood is about money. It is going to be hard to find someone to bring them money like Chad did. Do you think that's the case, or do you think Black Panther stands alone?
I disagree. Because I feel like it's so many cats on the rise that you could put in this spot. Like, I'm going to throw the name out. John David Washington. Washington's star is ascending in front of us. It would be smart to hit your wagon to him, or the British guy that did Bridgerton. All of them seem to be, pretty good at accents. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
I kind of want a darker brother. That's just me personally. I kind of want.
Me too.
I just kind of want a darker brother.
Me too. But I'm just
I don't want to be asking, hey,
I
King
hear you.
T'Chaka, what was you doing? Why you got the lot? What was you at? I don't know. I'm just.
I
saying.
hear you. Okay.
I'm just
Okay. Well,
messing,
maybe not him, but
I'm just messing.
No. or maybe the brother from Snowfall. I'm just saying. It's just so many up and coming stars, and I'm like, and once again going back to what I said, I like ran through all them people to play Batman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
So like, why is T'Challa the one that's like untouchable?
Right.
Like,
and
I get it. Chadwick was a saint on earth. Chadwick was like a really good dude. But y'all, again, 55 years of material. Cause like I'm gonna tell you when I first saw Black Panther, it was about 88. It was in the issue with Captain America. It was when Steve Rogers had given up being Captain America. He was wearing a red, white, and black suit. So this little ship hovers over his compound, and he flipped on there like, "Hey, yo, what's up?" He's like, "Then you see these two African people? They're like, hey, our leads brings you word." He was just on a video screen in this comic, but he was just so cool to me because I'm like, I know he's wearing a mask, but I know there's a brother up under there, and this is just dope to me. And then he like was talking to Steve like, "Hey man, I'm sorry, they kicked you out being Captain America, but here's my gift." So he gave him a like another vibranium shield. So like automatically I associate T'Challa with being the man. And then, years later I'm reading different runs and incarnations. I'm reading Christopher Priest's run. I'm reading Reginald Hudlin's run. Or even Ta-Nehisi Coates' run. Now I just like, guys, I don't want the emotions of his death to just deprive us of all these rich stories. I feel like that's just a rash decision.
Plenty stories to tell, man.
But can I say this though? As far as what the studio is doing, I really do, and I had mentioned it earlier when all of us said something at the same time. I do think that they took the cowardly route out because they didn't feel like they could escape the ridicule and the backlash from replacing a brother. And I think they got a little too scared about what could possibly come from doing that, rather than focusing on the negative, because they looked at it as, okay, we're gonna lose money if we pick the wrong Black brother and somebody don't like him or the movie is a flop. Then we're gonna have to backlash from the fans that way, and then the franchise will just fizzle and they'll struggle and they'll lose money until they revamp the program. Mm-hmm. So they really should continue to do what MCU is good. The MCU is good for. They innovate. They pick people that you wouldn't expect them to pick. When they picked Chris Evans to do Captain America, he had already done Johnny Storm and was the Human Torch. It's like, okay, now if you could survive a switch like that, because that was within a few years. I mean, that movie flopped with him in it, and then they recast him as Captain America, and then they had a blockbuster. They made a lot of money off of that. So they have to look to their visionaries and look to the possibilities of what they can do and stop so much always worrying about the money. Yes. They got so rich that's the only thing they're worried about.
I also kind of wonder too if the reason why they say we're not going to recast T'Challa so that they can get a fan mandate to recast T'Challa. So it wouldn't look like they're just looking after, I just want to get the money. We got to recast him. They don't want to be seen as, that insensitive. They say, oh no, we're not going to recast him. But then now you got the fans saying, no, recast him. So then it's like, oh, well, okay, since the fans want us to recast him, then we'll do it.
Say that. I want them to say exactly that because my thing is like, again, why didn't you all you had to do was just say, for the time being, we're not going to recast, or we're not going to recast right now, or we just don't have any plans to recast. Leave it up in the air.
Right.
Nobody would give you any pushback. I wouldn't give you no pushback. Everybody be like, yo, we understand, we get it. But the fact that you just was like, we're not gonna do it, and it's that final.
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So
Really?
we have one of our listeners they're jumping into the stream with us. This is Chef Cook. That's his name that he has on here. What's your question, Chef?
Hey,
Or what's your comment?
right. But like I said before, I mean, LaShawn, it's all about and all the guys who said Mark was talking about not household names. They want to make sure they have someone in there that can bring them the big bucks. If you can't bring in big bucks, you can forget about it. No matter what who the person is, they have to find someone that can bring in the big bucks because if they won't do a sequel to another movie, I'll make sure that guy can carry that load with that big movie. He's looking at company.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I give you great.
The only problem with that is that none of them were bringing in big bucks before Black Panther in the first place.
True.
that's what I was like, was Chadwick Boseman a big name before he was cast as Panther?
Look what happened.
To us, he was.
Look what happened. The chick named Ray, but that's Ray. That's how they gonna carry that. He thought they will be the next Star Wars movie, and she gonna carry that role over, make more Star Wars movie, and when taking bomb, who they blame? They blame them. They blame nobody blames studio. She just I'm innocent. But that character that who paid that lady pay Ray bomb, and look like Star Wars 9. Everybody blame him.
Yeah, they called her Mary Sue for a very long time.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, they did.
Man.
But I think that's a really good point though, because
Yeah,
again, Chadwick wasn't a superstar beforehand.
I know.
But again, neither was Chris Pratt, neither was Chris Evans. Robert Downey was already on the down. Again, those roles accelerate people because they're on a bigger platform and they have a better opportunity. But what you do need, maybe you don't get a household name, but what you absolutely still need is someone experienced and talented enough to handle whatever pressure or things that come along. And I would perfectly say Yahya Abdul-Mateen, the second, the brother that was in Aquaman, Black Manta, the brother that was in Watchmen. Yeah. People don't understand how severely talented this brother is, and all he needs is the opportunity. All he needs is that.
That's a good pick, man.
That's great.
I'm impressed.
That's a good pick.
Okay, E-Man, you're gonna be opening up floodgates for Idris Elba and everybody else.
Hey! Look, I started the petition to get conversations going because I think people were too calm, too relaxed with the narrative that Marvel pitched, and that's why a lot of people are running with it. Like I said, it's never been a thing to consider recasting disrespectful. This is not the NBA or sports where if you stop a character's portrayal, it's like retiring their jersey. Movies have never worked like that. Stories have never worked like that. Yeah. Every actor that has come into a role that has had a bunch of other actors before that in a very popular role, what do they usually say? It's an honor to step into a long lineage of all these great actors and this big character. It's a challenge, but I'm here for it. I love it. That's what actors do.
Yeah.
So this new narrative by Marvel, people are buying it hook, line, and sinker. And I'm like, yo, this has never been a thing. Where are y'all making this up? Why is Chadwick and T'Challa now the magical exception?
You mentioned it earlier when you mentioned the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
You remember,
You know what? Y'all gonna let light skin and Via live now.
We dealt with that before,
and we handled it, right?
And we were okay with it.
Yeah, we laughed about it. It was cool.
Yeah, but
they laughed about it in the street.
Right? It's absolutely possible.
What you trying to say, Mr. Chef here?
Yeah, the characters movie. Because they don't have to bring like Tony, Robert Downey Jr. or whoever to help help with that movie big, because this guy by himself pick have to create this movie. Now,
I see what you're saying. You're saying bringing someone in like Robert Downey Jr. to kind of help carry the actor. Listen, because I have my Edith glasses, from Iron Man.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I'll go with that.
I agree with that. Now,
All right, thanks.
Razzle. Great choice. Very popular. He should have been the next James Bond. But the only reason they didn't want paying James Bond because they want somebody to sleep with white chicks. Everybody knows that.
I mean,
All right.
you're not wrong.
All right, thanks, LaShawn. I appreciate you joining us. I'm going to jump out, and we're going to move into Mr. Kane. They don't want the little black kids to have their own black hero. Everyone used to seeing Superman and Batman as those heroes in the children's eyes. Now that the Black Panther has surfaced, yes, Hollywood made a killing. America see the Black brother rising, not only as a character, but as a legacy. Because of his passing, they have no reason not to carry on his character as a Black legacy. It's more than just about money. It's about control. What do you all think about that comment?
Wow.
I think it has some merit because I mean, I remember in the beginning when they would throw little hints about Wakanda and Kevin Feige was like, well, we don't know how we can properly portray Wakanda because it's a place that's never been invaded. And I was like, see, well, back then we wasn't using the word colonizer, but basically there was a very colonial way of thinking. And I was like, and see, that made me nervous that it wasn't going to happen because I was like, oh, okay. Well, see, he trying to say that Wakanda couldn't happen, that, the poor little dumb blackies couldn't, defend themselves. So I'm like, I think this person might have some merit, man, because like, Wakanda is powerful. Wakanda is like more than that place. Wakanda is like a feeling, a mood, a vibe, if you will, Wakanda forever. And that's powerful. And there may be a lot of the old boy network, particularly the old boy network in Hollywood, that does not want to see them.
Now, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but there was an interview in December, and this was an interview of Chadwick's brother, Derek Boseman. And they asked him, like, how do you feel about the upcoming Black Panther 2, et cetera, et cetera. And he was like, obviously he couldn't go into too much detail, but he was like, look, I know what you're trying to ask me, but what you can't ask me. So I'll just give a different answer or whatever. And he was like, obviously I would like to see my brother continue to keep portraying the role. However, the powers that be, they are dead set on having a queen on the screen. So this was something that I don't know what inside information he had or not. Maybe he had conversation with Chadwick. I don't know. But according to him, he's like, they wanted this Shuri thing from the jump, and maybe this is like a happy coincidence. I'm not saying that they are happy about Chadwick passing. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying like maybe this is more convenient for them to push that narrative because of this situation, and they're just rolling with it.
So the studio's narrative is not Wakanda forever, Black Panther forever, in whatever form.
Right.
And with that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which I think is problematic. I'm like, don't, like, y'all are not about to make y'all don't make 007 movies. You make James Bond movies. Somebody, matter of fact, a sister will be 007 in the next movie.
Right.
But you still got James Bond.
Yeah.
Like, he's still there.
Exactly.
Both can exist.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be the case. We have another person made a point about, I guess this is concerning the replacement of Wesley Snipes' character with Mahershala Ali.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely the MO. Yeah. This has been a lively conversation. I mean, I think everyone who's on the live stream as well as on the stream live here with us have enjoyed it. And I definitely thank you again, E-Man, for joining us tonight and just adding your thoughts to the discussion. And again, we want to encourage everyone to go to change.org. And I'm going to go ahead and put it right here. Go to change.org. You got the Recast T'Challa to honor Chadwick Boseman. You're almost hitting that 25,000. Is that what you're doing for? And then once you get to 25, are you going to go higher?
So it actually changes by itself. So
Okay.
every time it crosses a threshold, it just moves the bar by itself. So
Yeah. And also, brother, full disclosure, I signed it like a little bit before I jumped on this stream today.
I feel you. Appreciate the support.
So everybody, see that, go sign the petition. We want to recast T'Challa. And I just thank all of you all for joining us tonight for the OLM live discussion. And we will see you on the next broadcast.